Grog.
Hey everyone, it's the Sideshed Podcast with me, Peter Fickling, Keri Walbis and Matthew Weir. I was a right moaning Minnie last week. I was ungrateful, I was whiny, I forgot what an amazing show The Archers is, and to prove it, the scriptwriters gave us Neil's Meltdown, arguably the best bit of Ambridge entertainment from the last couple of years. What do you think, guys?
You are pitching that high, aren't you?
Well, I'm a man of extremes.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I think Neil's lost his mind.
Matthew, Keri sent us our topics. So this week we are covering Has Neil Lost His Mind? Fern versus Jazza. Denise, what's the story? And then also we have a mystery topic from Keri. So Keri, give us a sales pitch after the ads. Come on then, Keri. Hit us.
I'm looking forward to when they all start playing the human centipede game that Jim has requested.
It's a strange one to go for, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the fact that Lily had obviously strange things have been afoot at Lower Loxley because she already had a board for them to play on.
I know. It's a big rug like a carpet. I suppose it's sort of washable or something, isn't it?
Who's the worst pair to be stuck in the middle of in an Ambridge centipede?
Who would you like up you or not like up?
Front, yeah.
Can I just say, in episodes 1 or 2 of The Cider Shed, we actually had this conversation.
No. Are you serious?
Yeah, we had a decision on. Yeah, we described or pontificated on who would be the best and worst.
They are listening to us and putting in things in the Archers that we've talked about, even though we can't remember that we spoke about them.
I don't. I'm both impressed that we're base enough to have that conversation twice and disappointed that we're so predictable.
Matthew, can you remember what any of us said about who we want
Nope.
in or around?
And I'm sure as hell we didn't put it in the episode description in those early days.
Yeah, we were a little bit more genteel, a smidge more genteel in episodes 1 through whatever.
Oh, no, I don't think we were. I just think...
Well, if we were talking about human centipedes in episode
maybe in the
2.
description we were, but in the content, no.
Surely one of us said human centipede and made some kind of vile joke along those lines. But,
no, it didn't happen. Maybe I'll go back and have a little listen, but
that's just in your mind, Peter, that you want people to be thinking that.
I mean, I think I don't want to be in a human centipede. I was going to say that. So if anyone's thinking of volunteering, no, thank you very much.
Anything is preferable to this pudding competition at this point, isn't it? So we're going to have human centipede competition. Fallon was again praising Pip's marvellous idea, wasn't she? Her stroke of genius. That they're just going to cook enormous cakes, but it will just be dished out in trial portions.
We had to listen to the rules all over again, didn't we? With Stella, Pip and Fallon discussing it. And then Harrison was revealed to be dead keen on it all. And he's like some sort of, I don't know. I was going to say retard. You're not allowed to say that, are you?
Well, just say Chris then. He was like some kind of Chris.
Yeah, that's it. He's had burnt pans and made a butternut squash and banana cheesecake.
Well, I'm starting to have my suspicions about this, and someone else aired this on Twitter. If you come home to a policeman who's got his hands covered in white powder, surrounded by burnt pans, and his significant other is worrying about what she's shoved in quiches, I think there's something afoot here. I think they are definitely up to something.
So it's like a Breaking Bad type situation, do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, anything's better than... What was it? Baked butternut squash and banana cheesecake.
I've just thought of a really good joke, everybody.
Baking Bad.
Yes! Oh, God. I'm too smug about shit, aren't I? Anyway.
That'll have to end up being a title at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
And even if it isn't, someone else can steal it and put it on their podcast.
Ha! But the worst thing that came out of that discussion with those three was that Stella has suggested as a distraction to the pudding mayhem, which unsung hero in Ambridge should get an award. So yet again, there's a fucking competition thing. It's
Yeah.
It's like a human centipede competition fest, isn't it? Where one competition ends, another begins.
Well, it never actually ends, does it? I mean, I've given up sending you things that are happening in my dad's village. There's a treasure trail this week. Something to do with bees. God knows.
I can't believe that.
Obviously, Denise mentioning it was part of to sort of remind you that she lives in the environs, and as she's definitely going to become a regular character now, isn't she? And it was one of the kind of mechanisms to draw her in.
Oh, is this while they were enjoying the cake? Her and
Yeah.
Alistair. Who was it made the cake? It was someone who he tended to their herd, wasn't it?
Leanne Barnes, sorry, yeah.
Having said I was a big fan of this week, anything that can make you two and your forensic memory for the show sort of like go blank it has to be fairly dull. And the Denise and Alistair chat was, calming. Should we put it that way?
Someone described it really well on Twitter, like, when you're sitting on a bus and you have to overhear some chatty Cathys going on and on about drivel, or having to hear someone speaking on a mobile phone where you can't hear the other side of the conversation.
So any time I get on a bus in Portugal then, which is, you're not allowed, actually there's a scrolling message at the front of the buses saying you are not allowed to talk loudly on your cellular phone, and then it's just people constantly talking loudly into their phone.
Yeah, Denise. That's
very good.
Sorry. She is revealing bits about herself, isn't she? That there's trouble at mill, by the sounds of it, because
with husband.
Yeah, he keeps cycling away from the home.
Yeah, he's off
as many times as he can.
Doesn't get on with the dog.
She sort of sighed when he was mentioned, didn't she? And
possibly he's getting himself buff as well, isn't he? From all the cycling, so maybe he's got his eye elsewhere.
It's the cliche, isn't it?
And Denise had her hair did.
Mm-hmm. And I forgot what I was going to say. Shit, sorry, lost it.
It's all right. No, take your time.
Jakob does this. Someone, and then he gets back.
Yeah. Oh, absolute brain fart. Sorry.
Even though it was quite sort of humdrum and boring, and as you said, it was kind of like a eavesdropping into someone else's conversation. I do like Denise. I get the impression she's going to be a likable character, and I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that I really enjoyed her takedown of Jakob how many months ago. So that there's a lot of goodwill from me towards her. And the only thing I was slightly dreading was the kind of potential obvious romance between her and Alistair, and I was sort of just dreading that.
I remembered what I was going to say, which sadly is a catalyst for some sort of romance. She mentioned fancying Barry.
They said that Dexter was quite photogenic.
Yeah.
And she said, oddly enough, so was Barry in a weird way or something.
Yeah, Barry's not too bad himself. And I did make a joke on Twitter about her having had her hair done. I said, women can do that without it meaning that they're trying to attract someone from the opposite sex.
Maybe Barry's going to go for Denise like a rat in a terrier's mouth.
Rat up a drain pipe. Yeah. She might be winning the... Oh no, I was going to say she might be winning the Unsung Hero award, but she's also nominated for Best Veterinary Nurse in Borsetshire, isn't she? For the newsletter.
For Lovell, what's his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
James Lovell. For Lovell, is it Lovell James or James Lovell? I don't know.
It's Lovell James, but it was Dan James or Don James.
Don James. Whenever they mention Don James, I just imagine Marlon Brando in The Godfather sat in with the light just filtering through the blinds,
giving out awards for newsletters.
Yeah. Well, at least you can get hold of horses' heads easily. I mean, that's not really difficult, is it?
Yeah. Speaking of which, animals and deadness, they were talking about the bagging up dogs, weren't they? Right at the beginning of Sunday's episode. It was quite doomy about, the worst thing is labelling up the sacking of the dead.
This was your government awareness episode of The Archers, wasn't it? People who've taken pets during the pandemic can now have to return to work. And also parvovirus, wasn't it? They were talking about that.
Yeah.
Which is, it's always a bit of a worry, I think, for pet owners.
Stella took that greyhound that was left on the doorstep, and my local park, there's maybe 7, 8. They're all Irish, so from charities in Ireland, and then they get sent over here. Well, the ones in my local park. I'm not trying to make a generalized comment, but yeah, it's true to life, is what I'm saying.
What, they're rescue dogs in your park, did you say?
Yeah, there's about 7 or 8 rescue Irish greyhounds.
Oh.
Yeah, so I mean, it might have been a dull comment, but I was just confirming that it's very true to life. Sadly, true to life.
They were bought for the purposes of racing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Funnily enough, the dog that I adopted for about 8 or 9 months in Dublin was dumped outside a Bookies with a load of paint on its back, and I was just coming out of the corner shop just next to the Bookies and found it in the street. I just had no idea what to do with it, so I took it to the vet. And then the vet just said, well, you can take it, and just kind of like looked up, and I was like, oh, for God's sake, okay. So I took this little dog for a bit.
Oh.
And then put it down. Anyway.
Then had a bet on it.
That's not what... It was not a greyhound. It was a very bizarrely shaped little terrier, kind of mongrel dog, which used to stand on its hind legs and walk in a standing position. So I don't know if it had been a circus dog or something like that.
Just imagining you dressed like one of the levelers in a town square in Dublin with your performing dog, putting your hat out for people to throw euros into.
Never, ever, ever mention my name and the levelers in a sentence again.
Matthew's kryptonite. We found it. Brilliant. It's only taken a year and a half. For me, it would be Chumbawamba.
There's something to do with Brighton, aren't they? The levelers.
Probably.
Yeah, I think their recording studio was on a street I used to live in.
They're not ideal, are they?
I don't know anything about them.
Are we a fan of Denise then? Because I've outed myself. I've got a little bit of a soft spot for her. She's definitely different. Let's put it this way: like her personality, she's got a bit of steel. She's nicely, she's got a nice sort of gentility to her and sort of calmness. I think I feel like there's good things to come from Denise adding to the cast.
I find her and Stella really enjoyable to listen to as actors, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely. That's the another thing. Sorry to interrupt. Great actress as well.
I haven't got much more to add in that just like when Stella's there's something about Stella's voice. It's got that real crackle to it, hasn't it?
Watch out, Fallon.
Exactly.
I know. Well, Fallon's annoyed me a bit with this whole pudding thing, so sorry, Fallon.
Brian and Keri had a massive falling out last week. Now Fallon and Matthew. But none of my... I mean, they destroyed all the people I love anyway, so, and they don't give me Russ anymore, so never mind.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, this whole thing with Keri falling out with Brian, I mean, opinion was quite split on social media this week, wasn't it? I mean, whose camp were you in more? Accepting that both sides weren't playing quite fair, but were you in Brian's team or Chris's team? So there was a lot of people on social media that were on Chris's team, and then there was us three.
No, that I have seen a few others who are non-Chris people.
Right, okay.
Yeah, honestly, not many, but...
Well, lucky for all of those Chris defenders, Chris came out and had a totally normal one this week, didn't he?
Yeah, he turned a corner at the end, didn't he? And then Neil wound him back up again.
I was being sarcastic. He was complete lunatic at the beginning of the week.
Yeah, true. He did lose it with Lillian, didn't he? Jesus Christ, like father, like son this week, wasn't it? And
he was also, earlier on in that episode, he was making very strange noises, wasn't he? When Jakob called across the yard to him, and he was like,
he's learned that from his dad, hasn't he?
I know, because the more Neil got upset, the more he started doing Salieri impressions, didn't he? And Chris was like, oh, I think I'm just going to ditch it. And he was like, no.
Yeah, he had a good growl on this week with Brian. Neil did.
Yeah.
I didn't fall out with Brian last week, by the way.
He said he didn't cover himself in glory.
Yeah, that's...
Ooh.
Yeah,
and you couldn't even finish the sentence before Peter went, wow.
Exactly. But this week, I absolutely loved him more than ever before, because in the face of Neil shouting his head off to him, I was laughing on the train when I was listening to the episode, which was a downloaded one because I couldn't listen to a live one because the signal's shit. But anyway, I was really proud of Brian for just really calmly replying to things that Neil was properly shouting in his face.
Well, utterly silent in some places as well, wasn't he?
He was very provocative, though.
Who was provocative?
Brian was very provocative, wasn't he?
How?
Brian has, rightly or wrongly, set himself on put himself up against the Carters, and Neil, who is famously a very level-headed and calm man, is struggling to keep hold of his temper, and then Brian drops that whole kind of like I didn't want to upset you anymore, Neil, or I didn't want you to risk losing your temper at work, and it's all rather sort of controlling and kind of patronizing. By the way, I love both of them. I thought the whole thing was fantastic. I was in love with Brian at the same time as being in love with Neil. It was great, but I'm just saying that is a quick way to wind someone up.
Yeah, we love Neil. We love Brian. I just think this week the Carters have gone a little bit down the rabbit hole. I mean, to the point where they were supporting each other at the end of this week in the playground. And they were like, well, he even twisted Jakob around. And Neil's like, yeah, I can't believe he did that. None of that happened. That did not happen. They've just convinced themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Matthew. And also because Neil is attacking Brian about things that when he's saying them to Brian, that is not actually what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't. We've heard what happened in that meeting, and Chris has sort of kicked off to Neil about it. I think Neil's just he's just taking Chris's words as being the gospel truth without sort of saying what's your side of it, Brian? He's utterly wound up. I don't think he should have started at his employer in work without booking some time out to have the chat. I know it's not an office or anything. It's a different kind of working environment. But there's no way you can start shouting at your boss out of nowhere. And then, there was outrage on Twitter because Brian took a call when Neil was trying to talk to him. I think, well, he can take any call he wants to take. How do you know what that call could be?
Matthew, this is like listening to Michael Fabricant and talking to the 1922
committee. Hopefully, Keri hasn't got quite as bad dandruff as Michael. How can you get dandruff from a fucking wig? By the way, did you see the state of his shoulders when in the Sue Gray report? Meu Deus, as they say in Portuguese. I am with you a bit. I mean, lots of love for Neil. I did feel that Brian wasn't really pushing his buttons, Peter. I don't agree with that. I think, if anything, Brian was more annoying him by saying nothing in that scene. That point where he was like, you're going to stay there and listen while I'm talking. And there was just nothing coming from Brian. All that Brian said, sorry, the local Hells Angels gang has just showed up. They're big Neil fans.
Holy moly.
I'm in trouble. I thought Brian just thought the best thing he could do was remain calm and just let Neil go for it.
And like I was saying earlier, it was Alice who brought up the fact that Brian had bailed Chris out. Brian didn't do that himself in that meeting. And Neil was going, you had to rub his nose in it. He's very proud of the business he's built up.
I didn't get that.
What do you mean?
I didn't get why Chris's nose was so bent out of shape. Why does it make any difference if you had to go cap in hand to the bank or cap in hand to your family or cap in hand to Brian? Your business has failed to the point it needed a cash injection.
Well, it probably didn't matter that much until now, did it?
Yeah, but Brian wasn't rubbing his face in it at all. He didn't say anything. Alice said, actually, lay off Dad, because Chris was laying into Dad.
Yeah, she said, you don't know half of what he's done to help you.
Brian didn't do anything there.
But I thought there was a good parallel this week where I think Chris said, oh, you went running to Daddy instead of us trying to sort our own problems out. And then there was that moment when Neil had that quite curt exchange with Alice at the end of Thursday's episode.
Yeah.
And he took the baby and said, you're all right now, Martha. Let's go up to see Daddy. I was just like, this is all getting a bit pathetic, I think.
Would they not please say they're not going to do one of those mad father kills his own kid plots?
Oh my God, Peter. What?
What, you think Neil's going to kill Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Now I'm up for it.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Is, up on the roof, Neil. Oh, bell ringing up in the bell tower.
I mean, we should point out, and I think we said this last week, that in any other scenario where you had the haves and the have-nots, we would be completely for the have-nots.
Yeah.
But Chris is just such a dickhead.
Yeah.
And it is, and we love Neil, and as I've said a million times tonight, and we are not going to turn on him. But it's just, if you have to pick a side in this for pure entertainment, you have to pick the Aldridges. It was quite horrible, I thought, when he said that Martha would be far better off with Chris than with the Aldridges. They don't know how to raise kids because it's not in them.
That's what I was just about. I was trying to sort of, get in there to say that. It's awful that he was saying, Martha's better off with us two nutters. You're not shining examples of calmness, parenthood, anything at the moment this week. And to think that you see yourselves as superior to the Aldridges. I know what they're driving at. Obviously, like, the Aldridges are dysfunctional, aren't they?
Yeah.
As a
entertainingly so, though, right?
Yeah, but so is Neil and Chris and Susan at times.
I'm pretty sure which house I'd like to be raised in.
Yeah, me too. Where would you have more fun?
The one with the big mahogany drinks cabinet.
Yes.
The one with Brian in it.
And less soup.
Matthew, my boy, your 8% Perry seems to be running a bit low. Just let me top it up there. Let me just pop a little bit in there.
Oh, exactly. Also, what the hell goes on in this playground? I presume it's the playground that Philip Moss built, because him and Chris and Neil are sat there, and he said, "I just can't bear seeing my daughter being pulled back and forth in a battlefield." And I was like, "Get up and get her then!" Like, what are they doing to her?
Is that the playground that's full of smashed vodka bottles as well?
Yes, from his wife. Unfortunately, we shouldn't bring that up at this point, though.
Oh yeah, when Chris said, "You don't know how hard it is trying to support an alky."
Yeah, that was a bit rough too. I mean, all is fair in love and war, but it got a bit messy, didn't it?
I think the main problem for me is something I've kind of hinted at before, is that it's all so unnecessary. So it's not built on anything that you can kind of empathize with. It's like any normal couple, as in Chris and Alice, would have come to some kind of agreement by now.
They went forensic accountant, and then there was a mediator before, wasn't there? But that was when they ended up having that huge argument about over who would have childcare, right?
Well, back to Keri's original point. So Keri was not. So one of you was talking about the kind of who was on team Brian and who was on team Neil, and people were kind of following the dominoes back to the source. And the original one, the feeling was that it really all kicked off when Chris was being incredibly controlling and saying, "Oh, you won't be able to do this. I'm in charge of Martha for the forever." And as a parent, one of the things that does, kick off an argument between two parents is when someone takes the kind of "I know best" route, because it's very, very irritating.
He literally said, "I will make the final decision on everything for Martha." I mean, piss off.
It doesn't matter what she's done. That's irritating.
And they seem to forget that, yes, it was an awful time having to deal with what Alice was behaving like, but it was an illness. It's not anything she wanted to be like. They really lose sight of that a lot of the time. And so do people on Twitter, actually, because there was someone who wrote, "Oh, she didn't even bother with the baby for the first 6 months." You think she was an alcoholic, and it was all awful, and a car crash, and of course she wasn't in a fit state to do so. It's not like a conscious decision to think, "I can't be arsed with that baby."
I've given up drinking in the last 2 years during the time that Alice has done it, and what it has made me realise is that when it's as difficult as it was for me to give up drinking, it really shows you how impossible it must be for people who have that morning through night constant yearning for a drink. And and Alice is doing well, I think. She's coping rather admirably. I don't like Alice, but you've got to take your hat off to her sort of dedication to the cause.
It'd be really good if at some point in the future, Chris and Neil, at least, acknowledge that is something that was part of what they're fighting over.
Yeah, I mean, I do take Matthew's point though about sort of there is a kind of a, I think as a historic, not as a seasoned Archers listener, there is a sort of it is difficult to take the Aldridge's side. You do sort of feel like you ought to have Neil's back instinctively.
Yeah, you should be there for the underdog. It's just that in this case, Chris is making it very hard, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely underdog. Yes.
And I also didn't like his. All right, it's not entirely relevant, but he was a bit rapey.
Yeah, he's not a nice person, as we've said thousands of times before. He's not a likable, nice character.
There's also a I mean, every country has its sins, but there is a sort of like Michael Gove's the example. Whenever Michael Gove or Jacob Rees-Mogg are defended, it's always their manners that are called out as the kind of reason why you shouldn't be horrible to them. It's like, oh well, they might vote to strike down abortion rights and to reduce funding of poor people and to enable rich people to offshore all of their wealth, but when you meet them, they're incredibly polite and well-mannered people, very, very nice. And I think there's some of that with Chris. It's like he's a superficially nice guy. He sort of ticks all the kind of Daily Telegraph, what a lovely chap boxes, and it's like, no, he's thick, he's dull, he's a bit rapey. Well, Matty's words, but I do remember what he's talking about. But he's
I'm glad you've gone down that road with me now, Peter, as well.
Very, very close to the surface with him is proper anger, rage. He doesn't hold his temper well.
He didn't seem to understand why Alice didn't want to kiss him at the Arboretum.
Yeah.
And he was just like, but you're my wife. I was like, yeah, it doesn't quite work like that, fella.
And then there was also, and you brought this up as well, Matthew, I remember, there was also his whole kind of back and forth with Amy. It was like when it suited him, when it suited him, he was all over her. And then he was incredibly quick to just dispose of her as soon as it didn't suit his agenda.
I enjoyed myself and I'd quite like a bit more. And oh no, now it's got a bit messy. So bye.
Yeah, awful. Anyway, what about Lillian shop hanging to buy semi-skim milk?
Well, that would look weird, wouldn't it?
Yes.
So luckily, that's exactly what she did. While Jazzer went in for her, guilt-tripping her about Justin laying him off or cutting his hours at Barrow, which then led to Fern of Felpersham Kitchens coming to visit Dower House to size up their very tired appliances.
Yeah, I thought he said because you cut his arse at Barrow.
Well, there's always a bit of an arse miss here, isn't there?
Yeah,
what was it I heard as arse a few weeks ago? Oh, Vince getting the back knocked off his arse by the builders.
Yeah, so the kitchen fiasco came to a bit of a head, didn't it? Jazzer got found out by self-righteous Fern, and people did point out on Twitter that salespeople wouldn't give a shit about any of that. They're just interested in the money that could be made, and she can make the money from it, and she wouldn't go telling on him to Mr. What's-his-face, who she's shagging.
Well, she was it Barry, the same Barry who is...
Oh, yeah, the rat man.
Who also, like, takes waffle makers from behind bins.
Yeah. Multi-purpose waffle makers covered in batter that he found behind a bin.
Yeah, I do really like the idea. I can visualize this scene where he's, like, demonstrating it to Fern, and she's just there like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life?
What, with Barry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That spoke to me, that moment. I can imagine that happening.
I do wonder why we've never heard of Barry who wanders around the green with a rat on his shoulder.
I think we have heard of him before, haven't we?
Well, we're struggling to remember.
I
Surely if he was an Ambridge character, like who has a rat on his shoulder, someone would have mentioned it.
Well,
Anyway.
Barry the fit rat owner.
Yeah.
Well, but if there was a rat in his kitchen, what am I going to do?
Ooh, pizza.
And we are talking about unemployment benefit with these two as well.
Yeah, UB40.
Yeah. Well, we talked about them a while back, didn't we? They're not much beloved by the reggae community.
Mm.
We have a pretty good track record of never criticising the actors, except for obviously, famously Keri and her Logman. But
Amy.
I really struggled with the Justin versus. I really struggled with the. Sorry, Keri, you're clearing your voice there. I really struggled with the Justin versus Fern conversation. That did my head in because Justin is already a very big character. Can we say that? And then Fern was being played. I mean, it was pantomime-esque, wasn't it?
Ooh, interesting one. I'm sort of the opposite way round in that I thought they played well some really chronic lines.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was definitely pantomime-y because that never, ever, ever, ever would happen in real life, would it? All of those very, very cliched statements that she made and, playing him like a fiddle. And would Justin really melt and because of a few throwaway, obviously fake compliments about him, would he then go, yep, I'll buy a kitchen?
It's true to Justin, but Justin's not true to life.
Keri, could you find a peppermill blindfolded?
Is that a line from the Archers?
Yeah, because Justin said, I know this kitchen so well I could find the peppermill blindfolded. I was like, this sounds a bit wrong.
Yeah, less about your and Lillian's games.
What was he wearing as well? Because Lillian's like, put some trousers on.
I know. What do you think it was? What did he have on
the onesie? Top? They're in the onesies, I think.
Oh, I thought he was. I just imagined him in a little crop top and nothing else.
Well, he wears lounge pants, doesn't he? We know that he wears lounge pants and
purple ones.
And he also, yeah. Well, and the purple onesies. So maybe he was just.
And the kitchen's big enough to have 2 islands.
Yeah, it screams double island. Apparently, the room. Not quite sure how that. I mean, that sounds more like a haunting to me.
I couldn't stop thinking of Fantasy Island when they said that. Deplane boss.
Good. Oh my God! Hang on, that's impression of the year.
I don't think I even watched the bloody program, but you know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah, we know who you mean.
Well, according to Spotify, so will all of our listeners. That's a very age-appropriate joke, Keri.
Oh, good.
According to the statistics, we're at risk if we're talking about Portuguese music festivals. We're not at risk if we're talking about early 80s. What would you even call that?
TV. Just TV.
Yeah. Genre bending, Bond spin-offs.
I'm glad I mentioned it there.
Keri, was there talk of some kind of quiz that you were going to be doing? Matthew, do you know about this?
He doesn't.
I don't know anything about this.
While you were off banging pots and pans and assembling your recording tent, Keri was telling me that we are going to be grilled.
Yeah, well, this all stems from me and others thinking Alistair and Stella might get together at some point. Then someone else pointed out that Alistair is 59 and Stella is, well, the actress who plays Stella is 45. Would you have thought
that's not too bad?
Hang on, what's the age difference there then?
Well, we don't actually know the age of Stella, but Lucy Speed is 45. So that's 14 years, isn't it?
So according to the 1/2+7 rule, Alistair can date someone who's 36 and a half and up.
All right, okay, that's fine. So,
Yeah.
but what it led to was a discussion on Twitter about never knowing how old anyone in the Archers is. So I've got 7 people's ages here, and I'm going to ask each of you 3 of them and see if you know.
Keri, let's do that one by one straight after the ads.
We'll do Peter 3 of these first, and then Matthew, and see who
Is
can
there a
score
tiebreaker?
the highest. There is a tiebreaker. I've got 7 of them.
Okay.
And I'd like to point out that Richard Osman did a fucking shocking programme called The Birthday Cake
He
or something
did.
like that. So this is our version of that shit show in a condensed version. So right,
Okay.
Peter.
Yes.
How old do you think David is?
Oh, Dave the Rave,
Yeah.
61.
Ooh, very close. Are you looking it up? I didn't think about this.
No,
I
no,
can't
of course
see
not.
what
Of
you're doing.
course not. Of
Please
course
don't.
not.
Just play the game. 63 in September. He's 62.
Hang
So
on,
well
don't
done.
I get to guess on the same person?
No, he gets 3 and then you get 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Peter, you were very close there, weren't you?
So are you adding up the differences then? So I'm 2 years off on that one. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So, next one, Peter. How old is Ruth?
Ruth. Okay. So Dave's offered some kind of farming kibbutz in, where was it? Was it like Newcastle or New Zealand or something? He spies. No, she comes to work on the farm, doesn't she? She was the younger. She was like an intern or an apprentice or something. So I'm saying a bit younger. It wouldn't be too inappropriate, but let's say 12 years. So 51.
Again, very close. Two off. She's 53.
Okay, so I'm on 4. Okay.
Well
Matthew,
done. Well done.
our target to match here.
Okay. So your next one, final one for you, Peter, unless it goes to tiebreaker. How old is Brian?
Oh, come on then. Okay.
I know that.
So all of, how can I even work it out? So Debbie is his oldest, isn't she? That we know of. Hey, everyone. So, oh no, look, do you know how I'm going to do it? I'm going to do, so if 1/2+7, so Keri, so double 55,
Oh, right.
55 minus 7 equals 48, times 2 equals 96. He's 96.
You've shot your load there.
He's like 78, isn't he, Brian?
He is 78. He is 78.
77 or 78, because I saw someone mention it this week that he's going to have a heart attack because of his age. Yeah,
You've got to beat 20. You've got 22 to beat, Matthew.
Okay, nice. Right, and I just want to point out as well that in my mind, everyone in the Archers is either a grown-up or a child. So I don't think about how old anyone is. Right, so lovely. Matthew, 1, 2, 3. Okay, Lizzie. How old is Lizzie?
I would say Lizzie is 55.
Yes, she is.
No, she isn't.
She is. In 21st of April, she was 55.
Get out. That
Well
was
done.
honestly a guess. And I actually
Okay.
thought I'd gone under when I said it.
Uh-huh. Next, I don't know. I've picked 3 women for you. I don't know why. Next one, Kirsty.
Kirsty, she feels like she's not, I don't think she's 40 yet, is she?
I'm not saying anything.
She's younger than Tom, isn't she?
If this helps, Matthew, Sean Dyche is 50.
Oh God! I mean, like Tom's about 46, isn't she? She's a few years younger than him. I'm gonna say she's 41.
42.
Bugger off.
God, well done. She was 42 on the 5th of May.
Yeah, because I remember we looked at Tom, didn't we, to say he was in his he was about 46, wasn't he? 45, 46.
So what's Matthew
this
on?
very month? -1. He's short. He was short, but he was spot on with Lizzie. -1 with Kirsty. Finally, Matthew.
Okay, so you've got to be out by 22 years to lose this, Matthew.
Okay, all right. Who is it?
And the last person, Fallon.
Oh, Fallon's in her 30s, isn't she?
I bet you know, don't you?
No, I don't.
What's Natasha Van Kampen's home address, Matthew?
I don't know. She's...
Don't you look it up.
No, I'd say she's in her late 30s, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to say 38.
36.
Ah, bugger.
So -2. So you're -3 and Peter was -22.
Yeah.
The tiebreaker.
For the sake of a crappy joke, it was worth it.
Yeah, it was good. The tiebreaker was Tracy.
While we're in an interactive mode, assemble Cider Shed WhatsApp group. I'm going to send you a photo right now. This is relevant to our social media. Who is this that I'm sending you a picture of?
Okay.
I'll post this, obviously.
I don't think you'll be able to, actually.
Oh,
No.
that is. I know who that is.
What?
Bloody hell. Jesus Christ, that's Leonard.
That
with
is
no
Leonard.
clothes on.
And that is courtesy of Helen Roberts, I think it was, who got in touch on our Facebook.
I'm looking at Leonard's penis.
Why
Yes, you are.
I don't want to look at Leonard's penis.
What on earth was that in?
Well, you can thank Helen. Shameless.
Oh, brilliant.
He was played a nudist, apparently. So you can thank Helen Roberts for that, who got in touch on Facebook.
Thanks,
on our
Helen.
Facebook, who totally understands what we're all about.
Well, you can put that on my gravestone. I don't want to see Leonard's penis.
Well, it's too late now.
Oh, he's got lovely sort of dimples in the sides of his bum, hasn't he?
Yeah, all right. Okay. God, honestly, I'm quite a prude, and every week I have to lash myself.
Do you know what? The other night, there was a sex scene full on. We were watching something that was like multiple sex scenes on it. And I did actually mention, apparently Peter can't watch these.
No, I can't. I don't like sex scenes. I don't see the point in them. Anyway, if anyone else agrees with me and doesn't want to be constantly subjected to this degenerate filth that I have to put up with on a weekly basis, please get in touch on Twitter. And Keri, where would people tell you that you're a vile pervert who needs to wash her?
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at leonardsnob.co.uk. No, at the Cider Shed Knob pod. We've got nearly 2,200 followers, lads, and today is our 60th episode. So that's not quite a platinum jubilee, but nearly there.
If you want to find us on Instagram, it's the same as Twitter, at the Cider Shed Pod, and we have a Facebook group called the Cider Shed Podcast. Thanks for everyone. Keeps joining, keep commenting. It's really good. And write us a lovely 5-star review on iTunes, and we will post it up on Instagram and Twitter, and you'll see it there.
Yeah, we've had some lovely new ones recently, haven't we? The 5-star reviews that we've shared around and very, very much enjoyed.
And we've also had some private reviews, which we can't share.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for DMing us your positive comments about us.
Yeah, We've had some lovely DMs, we have to say, which are kind of after the watershed. Let's just say that. It's not Leonard's cock.
Regardless what anyone says, we have found our niche. It turns out that being degenerate perverts, the numbers go up every week steadily and exponentially. It's good stuff. So, guys, thank you so much, as always. Keri, Matthew, have a lovely evening.
See you next week.
Have a good one, Keri, Peter. See you, everyone. Bye.